Hello everyone. Today I'll be introducing our browser extension for social media data collection called Social-Annotate. With this tool, you can design your own surveys to annotate various types of social media entities like posts, user profiles, etc. We designed these tools to make annotation tasks easier, faster, and easily distributable. I will be demonstrating the capabilities of the Social-Annotate tool and how you can use it for your own project. So first, uh, let us first download the extension from our repository as a compressed file to the download folder. So you can see the URL in the address bar. The size of the repository might seem to be large, but have other resources in addition to the source codes. So let's open up the folder, and we can see in this repository you can also find the manuscripts, and you can see the folders named recipes and flask collect. Recipe folder contains different survey forms for different annotation tasks, and you are very welcome to contribute more recipes. Flask collect folder contains a sample code to gather data directly from Social-Annotate tool and store in a file. You can also build on top of this sample to use in a database of your choice. So then let's unpack the code from the compressed file. All we need for this extension is to locate it under the source folder. You can copy this folder to a more permanent location on your system, since the extension is functional as long as you keep this folder in the same place. And now we are ready to set up the extension on your Chrome. To do this, we first need to go to option menu and select the extension. And here. And on this page, you can see the button called Load Unpack to introduce extension like ours. We will go to the folder called SRC and we will select. Now you can see the Social-Annotate extension added to the available extensions. We also want to pin this extension to our extension bar. By clicking this puzzle piece shaped icon, we can pin the extension, and it will be available here. So let's now test the application. I'll first go to my Twitter account on Twitter/Onur. As you can see, there's a survey box appeared bottom of the screen. We already have a test survey for Twitter users. You can see available surveys by clicking the extension icon. In the small window, we can see the tabs for survey, options, and export. Let's look at the surveys first, and we will talk about the other. There are 3 different surveys defined. You can add your own survey or change questions for existing ones. We can now go back to annotate some Twitter users. Since this is my own account, I am confident that I am not a bot account, and I can give full confidence that I am not a bot. So I will say no to first questions and then change the value for the second question and hit a submit button. You can see a small message below indicating that our submission is successful. Let's try another account, maybe Ismail's account. Who is my collaborator on this project. He's a very funny Twitter account named Strictly No Fund. Since I know him for a long time, I know he's a real human, so the answer for the first question is no, but I can never be sure, right? So let's not give full confidence for this second answer and hit a submit button again, so we will have 2 different examples. With this tool, we can also annotate not only users, but also content itself. For content annotation, we need to switch to survey option from the extension menu. So let's do that first. Let's switch it to Twitter tweets. You may notice the page is refreshed and we no longer have the box at the bottom for user annotation, but we have a little boxes on top of each tweet. Let's try a couple of tweets on my profile by going back to my profile and annotate some. So the question for those is written in English, and I can see for this tweet is written in English and it's not a part of the conversation. So the answer is no. So I can submit one answer And I can see there's another tweet. This tweet is not written in English and it's not a part of conversation, so we can submit another one. Maybe we can find one reply that I might post. Maybe this one we can say. It's not written in English, but it's part of the conversation and we can submit it again. So now we tested the annotation. So where's our data? There are actually two ways to collect data. Simple one is directly downloading from your data through the export button on the extension, and you will see prompts to save those files. So let's save files for different experiments that we collect. And let's open these files and take a look at what's inside. So we can see these data here for different users and tweets. So let's open one of those. These are comma-separated file with responses to survey questions, and additional metadata like timestamps and the post IDs are also available. Another option is downloading using the web server option, which we will be discussing next. When you click on the options here, you will be directed to a new tab. You can see various customization settings. First, you can see the API endpoint option here. If you provide the URL for an endpoint, we will be sending a put request every time an annotator submits a response. You will be seeing how this option works when we conduct a demo for this, using the sample Flask code. To customize servers for your own needs, you can update the questions or extend this tool for different platforms. Extending platforms requires some new implementation, but we are open for pull requests to our repository to fulfill different needs. Let's take a look at Twitter user survey and change questions. You can see there's a template of form. This is using a grammar for defining web forms. You can test and validate the changes you make using the link here and copy the changes back to the field. Let's add a new question. First, copy this one to this form. We can see the form question here, and let's create another question. Instead of asking for bots, we can ask whether this account is organizational account, and say is this, and then we need to define this annotation to set where this question should be rendered. So this is another radio button question, but this time the key for this is organization. So now we have three separate questions, and we can copy this form information since it is validated and paste it back here and hit a save button. And let's go back to Twitter page and see how the changes are affected. So now let's switch back again from Twitter tweet annotation back to Twitter user annotation. And you might see there's an indication of record already exists from the previous form. And if we made a change, it will be a new record. So let's do that. I'm still not a bot account. This is not an organizational account. And I'm confident about the bot response. And we can submit a new response. So far, you have seen the basic functionalities of the Social-Annotate. Using these, you can address most of your needs for Twitter annotation. And if you want to study different platforms and sites, you can extend this tool. Let's take a look into what's underneath this tool and learn simply how we can extend it. So first of all, to define a new survey, you will need to make changes on few code pieces. These are for folks flexible with experience with coding. Here you can see the pieces of code for your extension. Details of the structure can also be found on our paper. There are a couple of important pieces we need to update when adding a new platform. First, In the config.js file has survey information here for different surveys. It has elements defining the survey to form and the details about the HTML element to inject it. Second, in the background.js, has the field to define different surveys, as can be seen here. Lastly, we need to place codes to handle injecting form details and handling the website format. And for this, we are using the content script folder for different platforms. Let's look at the code for Instagram. You can see two different files: inject CSS to handle visual elements and inject.js to control functionalities. We can look JavaScript file in more detail. The most crucial part of this script is the function called inject Instagram user survey, where we define location of the HTML element, and that we will be injecting survey components. Different systems have different design elements, and the website themselves can also have updates update their design. So it's important to identify the right elements. In this case, the React root, to inject our content. So let's go back to Instagram page to check our code. We can go back here and set this as the Instagram user. So now we can see on Twitter page we cannot inject any content because this is not an Instagram page, but and in that Instagram page it will render the content pages. So we believe this is not about accounts, or maybe this is. And then, is this a celebrity user? Yes or no? Let's give it a random answer, yes, and this question, and let's submit a button to record our responses. And there's also an automation option that I mentioned earlier for Twitter users. And for that we have a Flask app to collect data. So let's go back for, let's say, one of the other survey, Twitter tweet, and then return back to a Twitter timeline. Here we see a bunch of different annotations for different questions. And you can find sample code for the Flask application under the Flask collect folder, and it's the main py file. So in order to run that, I will first open a command line window. And then get to the path for this code file, and we can execute it with python.mpy. So here we see we create a simple web server, and we need to use the web address we can see in this option window. What we should do is we should define the address for a local environment, since we are running it locally, and define the API endpoint. And one important thing is we also need to set it up to port 500, since this is defined as it is. And this is not response, this is response. And save it. And when we go back here, what we will have is, let's refresh the page to make these changes applicable. So we can start providing the content, and we will be able to see the indicators of those. So I will be just randomly submitting a message, and we see there's a new data announcement with the metadata available. So let's do a couple more. I'm just randomly clicking those answers, and we have new data points. So we can see a response being transmitted in two different ways. First, looking into command line notification, and second is looking into the file, since our server has been storing those results in this responses.json file. So let's open this file with a text editor. I prefer to use Sublime Text for those purposes, and we can see two JSON formatted responses. So going back, this is simply how you can use and change survey to address your own needs. This tool is an evolving to address needs for different researchers. You can create an issue on GitHub page for any questions or reporting problems. Contributions are always extremely important for open source community, and you are more than welcome to submit your contributions to this repository. Thank you very much again.